up? This is CJ. Thanks for joining me. Today we're taking a good look here at the brand new Boss GX-10 and its bigger brother, the Boss GX-100. We're going to compare the two, compare the similarities and the differences, and let you decide for yourself, which one is best for you, for your live gig and or your studio. About a few days ago, maybe up to a week by the time this video is posted, I posted a demo, multi-track demo of the GX-10, okay? And then afterwards, I posted a lengthy video along with that of its workflow for a live gig situation. So today I'm going to compare the GX-10 with the GX-100, the differences between the two, their physical differences, the input-output differences, and some of the user interface differences. It's probably not going to be as long as the video, thank God, but you get an idea of what it is that you hope to accomplish, with each unit, and which one, again, is best for you. If you want to check out the older video, there's going to be a link in the description for that, so please do check that out. And while you're checking that out, you got to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much. Hit subscribe, share the video. Thank you again for your support. Let's get all things started right now. So before we talk about the differences, we should probably know what they're alike and, what is the same between the two. And in a lot of ways, they're more alike than they are different, as we all are in this world, right? Okay. So the most important thing that they are exactly like is the sound quality. There is no difference in the amount of processing that's available to you. It's 48 kilohertz processing. The amount of DSP power is the same between the two. You're not compromising with the GX-10 in terms of that against the GX-100. All of the amp models are exactly the same. The number and the types of effects are the same. The number and the types of amp models and effects you can use in a signal chain is the same. I believe it's up to 15 in a given single chain. You can still get 16 impulse responses, user impulse responses, in both the GX-10 and the GX-100. So that's awesome. The amount of memory time that's available for the looper for both the GX-10 and the GX-100 is exactly the same, so there's no compromises there. They both have a Bluetooth compatibility with an optional adapter. I have the adapter here on the GX-100. I'll show you a little bit more of that later on. Okay, they both have the Tone Studio applications for your tablets or your phones and also for your computer. So that's really cool. All that's free for download. It's really easy to use. They both have exactly the same touchscreen, so that's really awesome. Colorful, it's bright, it's actually pretty responsive, I would say. And I have a lot of different equipment with touchscreens, so this is actually pretty good. I would give them a thumbs up for their touchscreen response. They both have audio interfaces. You can hook this up to your computer and directly record right into your DAW. So that's great. Let's see what else. They have nearly the exact same amount of preset, or as Boss calls them, memory amounts. Within the GX100, you have 200 user presets. In the GX-10, you have 198. That's just kind of a quirk based on the number of foot pedals that are available, 3 against 4 here. So that's kind of a little quirk there. They are intercompatible in terms of their presets. You can take a GX-10 preset and put it into the GX-100. You can go the other way around, but you'll have to reassign some of the foot switches in order for it to work within the GX-10, but the sound and the actual signal chain and all that will be exactly the same. Let's see. They both have the expression pedal. They both have stereo outputs. They both have effects loops. They have external pedal inputs for additional pedals, control pedals if you want those. And they also have 1/4-inch headphone jacks, full 1/4-inch headphone jacks, not one of those little mini jacks. They both also have USB. So there's a lot of similarities here. They're pretty much the same in a lot of ways, and I think that's really great. They didn't come out with the GX-10 as a compromise. It's more of a size difference between it and the GX100. Awesome sauce. So I showed you how they are the same. We talked about that. Let's take a look and see how they are different. Obviously, size matters here. They are almost exactly the same depth. Almost exactly the same. I'm going to give you the exact specs in a minute. Okay. In terms of width, let's get that nice and even here. All right. Whoa. Most important tool in the studio is the measuring tape. We got a little bit over 18 inches for the GX100. Scale that down for the GX10. You got almost a foot, 12 inches, almost. All right. So let's take a look at the exact specs you have for the GX10. It's 300 millimeters or 11.13 inches, according to the manuals. And the GX100 is 460 millimeters or 18 1/8 inches. Next, obviously, you have the differences in the amounts of foot switches. You got 3 foot switches, 3 foot switches here, and you've got 8 foot switches there. It is a huge difference in terms of how to use the boxes per se, and how you would integrate with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little while. Okay. It also has 6 buttons on the GX10 and 8 buttons on the GX100. Now you might think that's a small difference, but it actually is a better user interface for the GX100 because you have those extra buttons because you tend to use them a lot rather than going through the menu system that is on the GX10. Let's see here. The expression pedal. You've got a nice smooth surface here on the GX10, whereas on the GX100 you have this kind of glued asphalt kind of treadle material. Okay, so this your foot will move a little less on here, your foot will move a little more, but it does have a little bit of texture on there, so I don't think that's much of a difference at all. Let's take a look at the rear panels. For the GX100 and the GX10, GX100, you have a single guitar input, of course. Okay, you have stereo outputs, and you have 1/4-inch headphones. Okay, very, very glad there's a 1/4-inch headphone in there, not some kind of mini headphone jack. All right, you have a effects loop for both of these, but the GX100 does have a ground lift. That's definitely a much more professional setup. In some scenarios, you go to a gig, you're going to have some dirty power per se. You might find that ground lift is very important. Another very important thing that the GX100 has that the GX10 does not have is this connection for an amp switcher. So if you want to change the channels on your amp remotely via the GX100, you can do that. You cannot do that with the GX10. They have the same kind of external control inputs, so you can use different pedals with both of these, and it allows you to have extra workability with the pedals and so forth. The GX100 has DIN MIDI, 5-pin DIN MIDI. Very cool. There is no 5-pin or any kind of MIDI on here with the exception from the USB. If you want to hook this up to another piece of gear other than your computer, you're going to have to get a USB host and so forth. If you want to go through all that, well, that's up to you, but you probably would want to get the GX100 anyway. They both have, with availability of this Bluetooth adapter here, that is an accessory. You can plug that into either here on the GX100, as I already had, or it goes into here, into the GX10. You just take off this little rubber cover, get rid of that. There we go. And it plugs right into there, and you screw it in to make sure it doesn't fall out. All right, the GX100 has a USB-B type of connector. This has a USB-C type connector. In my opinion, the older B connector is a little bit more durable, so I think that's a little bit better. It's a little more difficult to yank that thing out of there as opposed to the C connector. And it has a power supply on both these. That's awesome. And it comes with the exact same PSU power supply. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. All right, setting these right back down, let's take a look at some of the more additional differences here. I mentioned the power supply unit that comes with it. It's the exact same power supply unit that does come with it. It's the Roland PSU-1U unit. It's a brick with then an extension to an AC, regular AC power supply. It is 9-volt center negative. Okay, so you can use it with your pedal board's power supply. One thing that is nice with the GX-10, it takes 600 milliamps, so that's not really a lot. Most power supplies can handle that. This is a little bit power hungry. It takes twice as much power. The recommended amount is 1.2 full amps, or 1200 milliamps. So it takes twice as much power for the GX100 as it does for the GX10. One spec difference I did notice when I was looking through the manual is that there are different maximum input amounts. This may or may not mean much to you, but it will mean much to you if you want to use this with a different gear other than guitars, or possibly even guitars with active pickups, very hot active pickups. The GX100 allows for a lot hotter input than the GX10. Let's see here, I got it written down. The exact spec is -10 dBu for the GX10 or +18 for the GX100. So that may or may not make a difference to you. Okay. Let's see. Oh, the colors. The colors of the knobs. Why they did this, I don't know. But you have black knobs on the GX10, black, and these kind of silver shiny knobs on the GX100. Personally, I like the black ones better on the GX10. There's nothing wrong with the ones that are GX100. They're the same ones that they use on other pedals, particularly like their guitar synth stuff, the SY1000 or the GM800. I have also those in my studio here. The only problem I ever see with those is that if you're on a bright sunny day or you're on a stage with stage lights, they can reflect the light back into your face, so that sometimes can be annoying or not. Okay, so the other main differences between the GX10 and the GX100 is their user interface, or your workflow per se that you would use with them. Whether one is easier or not to you really depends on your needs, I would say. Let me explain here. Right, the GX100 allows for more of a complex display on a single screen because there are more foot switches available for you to make changes with. Okay, than the GX10. Let me show you here. Right now you're looking at the preset play screen, okay, for both these, okay. Now if I wanted to change this to where you can actually use the stops for that, I would want to put it in what they call manual mode, right? With the GX10, you got to hit both the C1 and the up for that at the same time. Oops. There we go. And that puts that into manual. With the GX100, you hit the single C2 or tuner button, okay? Or at least I have it set it up for that way. And there we go. Now you'll see here that's a much more detailed amount of screen data here on the GX100 than there is on the GX10. You have up to, with the 4-foot pedals, you can switch these on, all the different effects, okay? Here you see on the C1 here, I have the tap tempo. All right, and you already have the bank up and down, so you can change it to the different presets, and you don't need to do any toe tap dancing, any combinations in order to do that. So I can do that. I can hit, say, the next one up here, the lead drive, or I can go back to where I was. Okay, with the GX10, though, you're going to have to do a little bit more toe tapping to get to the same thing, okay? So let's go back to here. This is the play screen, as I mentioned. If you want to get into a place where you can turn on the effects on and off, okay, you want to switch it into manual mode. You hit those two there. I'm not very good at this with my fingers. It's not the GX10, it's me. And you have the ability to turn on some effects. Now you only have two available here as the main, and you can set up the third as the control. Now you'll notice if I did that, though, I can't have the tap tempo on there. I have to make a choice. So here you have an echo, for example, and a phaser, a script phaser. And then for this particular preset, you have the overdrive, which is on by default. Okay, so it's a little bit more narrow per se of what you can get in here for a given effect. If you take a look at the other video that I had mentioned before that I posted last week, the workflow for this, I go in a little bit more detail of how you can expand upon that and use it for more effects in a given set for a given song. So take a look at that. All right, so those are the biggest differences in terms of the workflow. So the question becomes, who wants a GX-10 or who wants a GX-100? Which one is right for you? For me, when I looked at both of these together, I first bought the GX-10 because I was very interested in getting a very small, lightweight rig to work with a new live set that I'm working on right now. I also play keyboards in that live set, so it's very important for me that the guitar rig is very light as well as the keyboard rig is very light so I can move it around to all the places I need to go. So the lightweight really did appeal to me, and if I was a guitarist with limited demands, I just wanted to have a few quick stomps available to me for any given song or so forth, that would very much appeal to me. One thing I really think this does appeal to a lot of bass players. Bass players don't have a lot of demands generally as much as guitar players, but they want something small and lightweight and powerful, and this has some great bass amp models into it. So this would be an excellent rig for a bassist. If you're an acoustic guitar player, I think this also would be an excellent rig. And if you want an inexpensive, studio rig that you can put on your desktop, something small or something like that, this also is very good. Both these units sound really, really excellent, and they really have a quality with Boss. I've always noticed that they have a quality of being able to cut through a mix very, very well. Who wants the GX-100? Well, if you're a guitarist who wants more of everything, and who doesn't want more, right? Okay. If your guitarist wants more of everything, you want it more now. That's essentially what the GX-100 is over the GX-10. If you like to have a larger pedal board type of rig with lots of stops, like that. If you like kitchen sink type presets, where you have different amp models, you can have up to 2 with these given effects, these effects units, and also different stops available. This is probably more your cup of tea. If you need a ground loop lift, on the effects loop, that's going to be for the GX-100 for you. Okay. If you require DIN MIDI, 5-pin DIN MIDI in order to run your system, that's also the GX-100. That's for you. And or if you need amp switching, that's very, very important to a lot of guys, particularly if you're running in a 4-cable method type setup. And if you're like me, anybody who loathes, foot switch tap dancing and stuff like that, that's going to be the GX-10. You're going to need to do that. Although it's not as bad as I initially thought it would be. Again, look at that other video that I posted earlier. It'll show you some very easy tips to get around with that and not as much foot switch tap dancing as you might expect. Well, hey, that's it. That's all I got for you on the Boss GX-10 versus the Boss GX-100. Both of these are awesome selections. You can't go wrong with either one of them. It's just a matter of choice between, whether or not size really matters to you and whether or not you really need all the functionality that the larger pedal gives, or you want something more simple that the smaller pedal gives, either the GX-100 or the GX-10, respectively. I want to take a time to thank you for checking out this video, checking out my channel. Check out tjontheroad.com. There's lots of stuff over there. You got to subscribe to the channel. That's that little thing up there. And share the videos that you see here. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.